Hello and welcome to the Asher Marketing Podcast. This podcast is presented by Asher Agency, your all-in-one marketing partner, serving clients across the nation. For further details, check out asheragency.com.
My guest is Brad Noll. Brad, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate having me on here. This is going to be a fun conversation again with Asher Agency.
Well, I agree that it's going to be fun, and it's a chance for us to turn the tables on you because not too long ago, you interviewed our CEO, Kara Kelly, and I really enjoyed that conversation. Seemed like the two of you got along really well and had a lot to talk about. That interview probably could have gone much more than 35 minutes.
Well, I wanted to respect her time. I know she's busy and does a great job for Asher and not just the city of Fort Wayne, but everything that you guys do and how you represent clients all over the country. So I wanted to be more cognizant of her time. And yes, you're right. I could have been an hour plus. She's amazing to talk to.
Well, I hear great things about you, so I'm really eager to hear your story. And I want to start at the beginning, whatever that is for you. And if my snooping around on various social media platforms has taught me anything, sounds like you grew up in Michigan. Is that correct?
Yeah, and there's a little story before there. I grew up in Bern, Indiana, about 45 minutes south of here, and a little small Swiss community. My grandfather had a real estate business for over 55 years.
Okay. Oh, wow.
And so I'll give you the short version of the story. My dad was a pretty good college basketball player. Actually had a prolific career. Ended finding himself up at Grace College over in Warsaw, and he got out of the family business, left the family business in real estate, and got into basketball coaching. It's just where his passion was. And so from Grace College as an assistant, they won a national championship. That took us up to Spring Arbor, Michigan, where he was the head coach all throughout the 90s. Built a very successful small college program at Spring Arbor University up there. And that's where I grew up. That's where my formative years were. Moved up there in the 6th grade, and the first person I meet was my future wife. So my wife, Lindsay, her and her twin sister were the first friends I had when we moved up to Michigan.
All right. So what eventually took you to Northeast Indiana? Was it then IPFW, or was there another catalyst for that change?
Yeah. So through basketball, my dad always says there's a lot more to basketball. But you can learn everything you need to about life through that game. And so that was the lens that I grew up with him being a college coach. He got offered the job at IPFW actually in 1996, I believe, 96 or 97. And he ended up turning it down. I just played my very first year on the varsity as a freshman. My sister was in middle school. He got offered the job right after my freshman season, and he turned it down. And 3 years later, they came back to him, offered the job again. And I was going into college. I already committed to playing for him. My sister was going into high school. And so our family just took another look at it. We came down here. I remember he brought me down. I think it was Warsaw Tigers played Bishop Dwenger, and it was BJ Coretta and Kevin Alt were like the big time names here. And he brought me to the Coliseum. He showed me what Indiana basketball was all about. And ended up going to an IPFW volleyball game of all things, saw that these guys were amazing athletes and that they brought out a huge attendance. And so, we just thought, in every area of our life, it's about let's try to get uncomfortable. And, IPFW was a step up from where we were. It would have made him a little uncomfortable as a coach, knowing that he went to the next level. It made me a little uncomfortable. But that's really what brought us to Fort Wayne, was that second opportunity that IPFW gave him to coach. And then he ended up coaching for several years after I graduated, but I was able to play all 4 years for my father at IPFW during the transition through Division I. So a lot of life happened in those years.
Yeah, sounds like it.
A lot of great memories as well.
So what was that experience like playing college basketball for your dad?
I would do it again in a heartbeat, and it was miserable all at the same time. It's fun. I joke a lot, and I tell my kids this. I had such a great childhood. I had an amazing upbringing. I had parents that loved me, and I was a pretty good basketball player individually. And part of my story is, and I know you have some questions here throughout this episode, but I think for the listeners to hear like how we got to where we are today, it really all started with my high school career in Michigan. I'm not bashful to say this anymore because it's part of my story, but I was a really good high school basketball player. Scored 51 points in one game. When I graduated, I was the number 3 all-time 3-point shooter in the state of Michigan ever. And I was first team All-State, averaged 25 points a game, my junior and my senior season. And so I had a lot of individual success, but I was never on a winning team.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go to bed at night and I would cry myself to sleep because I just wanted to win. I was a competitor. And I wanted to be a great teammate. And out of all the individual success I had in high school and then transitioning to college where we were an independent, it was an uphill battle. We were playing every name school you could possibly imagine. I think our RPI strength of schedule one year was 11th toughest schedule in the country, playing many ranked teams. And so again, you keep getting your head beat in every single night because the university's going to the Division I status. And so having a lot of individual success, but not a lot of team success kind of drove me kind of where we are today. But had an amazing experience playing for my dad. I've learned so many lessons. It's made me mentally stronger, physically stronger. I had to be the first one to practice. I had to be the last one to leave. It was a choice, but it wasn't a choice, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it sounds like your dad instilled some pretty good values in you that probably inform your work today. So, you go through IPFW, you graduate, and if I'm correct, you start your career on a sales path, correct?
Yeah. I heard a quote right as I was graduating. Actually, it was in February. We were on a bus ride, and I was reading books, trying to figure out what am I going to do with my life. I thought I was going to be in education because I want to coach like my dad, and I just realized I don't know. Hats off to Kaufman and everybody who coaches young men and young women. That's amazing. I couldn't see myself going down that path, and so I knew I wanted to do something with sales or investing or real estate. And that's really the thing that just kept coming back up is sales, investing, and real estate. And the advice that I got, Anthony, was somebody told me, I think it was my grandfather even, and he said, "Go to work to learn, not to earn." And he said, go to work to learn, not to earn. And he goes, if you could start off that way, because you're broke anyway, right? I mean, the majority of us, when you come out of college, you're broke anyway. Like, who cares? You'll have enough time to earn money in your lifetime, but you'll never get another chance to just be at the bottom and find something you love to do. And so he says, go to work to learn, not to earn. And so that stuck with me. It was February. It was a cold February. We're on a bus ride coming back from some game. And I just thought to myself, okay, what do I want to learn? I want to learn sales, investing, in real estate. And if I could learn sales, investing, in real estate, I could write my own ticket. I could be my own boss. Sure. I could do whatever I wanted to.
Yep.
So that's really kind of what took me down the path. Had some family members that were in pharmaceutical sales, thought it was great training. I could make some money, then invest, and met one of the boosters through IPFW. And I sat down with them, put my suit on, went to Casas on DuPont Road for lunch, and he offered me a job. And little did I know, when you get a job in real estate, you start at zero and you work your way up. So that was the beginning of my real estate career when I decided that, I wanted to learn sales, investing in real estate, had a connection here in Fort Wayne. And in 2003, I got started with real estate.
Well, and it's always a privilege when someone takes you under your wing like that. And you're doing similar work now where you're a mentor to some of the guys on the PFW team. That's a passion you and I share, is the mentoring piece. We'll circle back to that in a minute because I want to stay on your career path. So, Brad, when do you make the decision to start something that's yours with Noll Real Estate? How do you pivot to that decision, and what inspired that decision?
Yeah, I'm a coach's son, so I just believe that, if you want to, what do they say? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Yep. And so I just realized that I needed a team, I needed a coach, I needed a mentor, and so I spent time. I began my career at Century 21 under Jim Bradley. So he was an amazing mentor, taught me a lot about real estate. Then I went over to be mentored by a couple people in the commercial space over at Goldstein Napke.
Yep.
Dave Norton is a mentor of mine. And so Dave really mentored me on the commercial space. This was during the recession. I thought, do I want to add commercial real estate to the bag, or do I want to keep into residential? And so then Northeastern Group was started, and some unbelievable people over at Northeastern Group were starting their company. And I was very privileged to be one of the first 5 to 10 to join them to start what they were doing. And so I learned a lot from some great real estate mentors in our community. And then I got asked this question because you hate leaving places, right? I mean, all of us that have had some success, like you just can't stay where you're at forever. And maybe there's an exit that has to happen. And so my exits, I'm not proud of them. I always feel like I could have done a better job. I want to give them their flowers here and tell all my mentors they did a great job. But somebody asked me that question one time, like, why did you leave these places? And I think, the way I've been able to go to sleep at night and feeling really good about it is I didn't leave anybody. I was chasing my grandfather's legacy. He had his own real estate business for 55 years. So in January of 2021, my wife and I started Noll Team Real Estate. All of our agents on our team made the jump with us. And we just said, you know what, one of our core values is to grow constantly. And how else can you grow any more than when you bet on yourself? So that's really the genesis of where that came to be was January 21st of 2021.
Okay. So Brad, why do you think someone should work with your team as opposed to another option? There's a lot of great folks in the real estate field. What do you think differentiates you and your team when someone's looking for help with a property?
I love this question because there's a lot of great people in real estate. All right. I think if you're in real estate, you have to be a little crazy because, like I said, you start at zero and you work your way up, and the only time you get paid is if there's a result. I mean, you imagine, being an employee is like, well, you didn't do anything this week, we're not going to pay you. And so I love real estate and I love the people in real estate. But you asked a specific question, and it's almost like our competitive advantage when we. This is your world, right? So we went to name our company, and it's like everybody will tell you, don't put your name in the company. If you want to sell it someday, it's not as valuable. And I hear that, right? And so I just said, whatever we name this company, it has to have the word team in it because we believe our competitive advantage is a team. My background is in high level athletics. And so my podcast, Student of the Game, it originated from, I have an MBA in business. It just came from the locker room. And it's not a sports podcast, it's a small business podcast, but the whole theory of where we're at today as a real estate team and a real estate organization is no different than how any other sports franchise works. And so our competitive advantage is we have players on our team that play their roles. We have team members that excel in certain areas of real estate. My personal business, I have a buyer's agent, a listing agent, a luxury broker. We have somebody who specializes in lake property. And so it's like, you don't have 5 point guards on the team. You don't have 5 centers on the team. And so for me, it just made sense for a structure that was more team oriented because we all have limited capacity. And I wanted to make sure that the work our individuals on our team were doing, it was inside their giftedness. And so I saw very early, if you take a coach and, you're making cuts, you look at like, well, what does this person have that this one doesn't? And you evaluate talent. And that's kind of what we do on our team. And then we just get locked in on what our roles are. I know my roles and I know the roles on my team. And I just feel like we execute at a high level and we've got the data to back that up.
Yeah, and I think that's especially smart today. And we obviously talk about this a lot in our world, but the customers you're working with, your clients, they don't want someone who's, half good at everything. They want experts who can help them with a particular problem. Everybody today is looking for a customized approach. And it's why at Asher, the business has been built as a team of specialists, very much in the same way. I kind of jokingly say, but it is half true, that I don't really do anything anymore. I just assemble a group of really smart people and try to keep them on track, make sure they have the resources to do well, and then mostly stay out of the way. But it's a team of specialists. It's people who are really world-class at what they do individually, but they know their strengths, they know their limits, and we cover those where needed with other team members. It sounds like a very similar approach.
I love that you said specialist because that's actually the word we use probably the most often amongst our team is specialist. And I think when you're starting off, I don't know who's listening to this today, if they're a small business owner, if they're a big business, but the reality is I think when you're starting off, the fool's gold, at least in our industry is, well, you're going to work with me 100% of the time. I'm not going to pass you off. I mean, that's what I said for probably 10 years, right? I'm not going to pass you off. You're going to work with me 100% of the time. Well, if you're in tune to what I just said, then you would also have to think, well, if you're working with another client, nobody's available for me.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're the consumer, right? If you're the home buyer, you're the home seller, and a house comes on the market, I want to go see it, and you tell me like, hey, I'm not going to pass you off. That also means you're tied up when you're with somebody else, and I can't get served until you're ready to serve. It didn't make sense, and so that specialist model is what we came up with.
Yeah, well, that's a great approach. And speaking of specialty, you recently rolled out a new brand. We were really fortunate to work with you on building your luxury brand for real estate. Tell us a little bit about that and why you've created, another brand and what that brand is meant to do and who you're trying to serve.
I think the thing we talk about in branding the most is my definition of branding has to do when there's an emotional connection that we're building with people.
Yep.
And what I want my brand to be and what other people perceive me to be, I think that's where things get a little tricky. We've all traveled before. Sometimes I travel for my daughter's AAU basketball, and I just want to stay in a hotel where I can go to sleep, wake up early, and get back to the gym.
Yep.
Other times, my wife and I are going on vacation, and we want to know what's within walking distance. Is there a fitness facility? Is there a gymnasium? Is there a pool?
Yep.
And so based on what I'm searching for as a consumer, there are different options that meet or exceed my expectations. Now, there are car brands where their service bay is not open on the weekends and they offer loaner cars. There are other car dealers that their service bay is open all weekend because that's the customer they serve, and there's no loaner cars, but it's a shuttle service. And so at the end of the day, you're not treating people different. What we really wanted to do was exceed the expectations of the demographics we serve. Mm-hmm. You asked a question, and the specific answer is this. We built a luxury division because we know that 30% of our sales volume are transactions that happen over $500,000. Mm-hmm. In any real estate market, luxury is defined as the top 10% of transactions. So 90% of real estate transactions in Fort Wayne and Allen County are below 500,000 and 10% are above 500,000. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to take on this big task of figuring out how can we exceed the expectations of 30% of our clientele.
Yep.
And in any business, if 30% of your revenue comes from a certain place, you need to pay attention to it.
Yeah, for sure.
And so for us, it was all about understanding how we can better serve the luxury market, just like we want to better serve the first-time buyers, just like we want to better serve the elderlies or the people downsizing. We deal in the lifestyle business. We talk about this all the time. I want to understand, when our clients are going through a divorce, when our clients are relocating, or when they're coming in from a new area. These are all demographics we want to study. It was just now time to dive into the luxury division.
Okay. And you've taken on quite a property in the Hamilton. So tell us a little bit about how you market a property as unique as that, that whole brand, I guess you will, because it's a brand unto itself. So how are you telling the story of this property?
You hire Asher Agency?
Right. There you go.
It goes back, and I hope, fundamentals don't change, but strategies and tactics do. And this is true in anything in life. Fundamentals don't change, but your strategies and your tactics do. And so what's fundamental anytime we're working on a project, we got to get the right team in place.
Yeah.
So we went and we solidified our relationship with Kara and Asher Agency, and we said, we want you to be our exclusive marketing and branding partner on this project. We went to Art Home Photo and Dustin McKibben over there, the CEO, and we said, Dustin, we want you to be the exclusive photographer, videographer on this project. And so the very, very first thing we did is we built the team. The people that we felt like we needed to have in our corner, not just for us, but to represent this amazing, historic, iconic crown jewel of Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Yeah. Well, it's a great property, and we're privileged to be involved and, want to do everything we can to help you tell that story. So we appreciate the partnership. So I want to talk about two things that you don't have to do, but you do them anyway, right? You have a growing family with young kids who need a lot of your time and attention. You've got a demanding career. You've got employees and all the stuff that comes with that. You prioritize your health, right? And you still decided you're going to take on two other things. One being a mentor relationship with players on the PFW basketball team. So tell me why you've taken that on, why that's important to you to stay involved in that program.
We're taking a quick break to talk about something that can truly impact your business, the power of public relations with Asher Agency. Imagine having a team of skilled communicators working tirelessly to shape your public image, build relationships with key stakeholders, and position your brand as a leader in your industry. That's exactly what Asher offers. Asher knows how to get your message heard by the right people at the right time. Visit AsherAgency.com for more info.
Well, kudos to John Kaufman, because what he's done, I guess go back a little bit. Coaches either get fired or they retire. That's usually how coaching works. My dad was on the side of getting fired, and we're extremely healthy, and we've gotten past that. But there was a time where we didn't go to the games. We were a little bitter, and
for sure.
we had to wrestle with that feeling for a while when something's taken away from you. And so it was through Tony Jasic and then John Kaufman, who was on staff at the time, that reached out to us and said, hey, we really want to get the alumni involved. And so this was probably 15 years ago. Yeah. And Anthony, from then on, they extended the olive branch and said, hey, we want a relationship with you guys. You're a valuable part. Brad, you played on the First Division I team. Your dad coached on the First Division I team. Like, that's part of our story. We want you to be part of ours. Yeah. So they extended that olive branch. We've been season ticket holders ever since. Our kids have gone to games. They've grown up going to games. They've grown up getting to know the kids. We've gone on flights with them out to UCLA, and we've just been a very proud part of what Coach Kaufman's building. And a couple of years ago, when he was talking about a mentor program, it's just something that's in my heart. I believe that you get the most out of life when you're being mentored and you're being coached, but when you're also extending that and you're coaching someone else and you're mentoring someone else. And I don't know if he's luckier or I'm luckier, but Jalen Jackson was somebody that I connected with, and I've been mentoring him for the last couple of years. And it's actually gotten to the point now where he comes over for family dinners on Sunday nights, and my kids think that he's just the fourth sibling in our family. And so I've just loved watching Jalen's career. Super proud of him. Disappointed for us here in Fort Wayne that we lost him to Butler. But what a great young man. What a great family. His mom, Katie, and the rest of the siblings. But yeah, just giving back and being a part of it is something that I don't take lightly. It's something that, honestly might have more value for me than for the ones I'm mentoring.
Well, a couple of things you said there really resonate with me. I've found as I've gotten a little older and later on in my career is that I genuinely get more excited about doing things that help others on our team develop than any development I'm going to do. I'm always going to be learning. I'm always going to be trying to be better. But I get even more satisfaction when I see someone on our team move up in a way that's perceptible. And I think that's what mentoring ultimately does. I also want to throw a shout out to Coach Kaufman, because the reason I've stayed involved now for 3 or 4 years is that I genuinely think he is as invested and interested in what happens with his players after basketball as he is interested and invested in what happens when they're on the court. And I genuinely believe that. And I think he's a great asset to our community in that way.
He actually, if I could be a little personal for a second, I'm helping my middle daughter navigate, the recruiting landmines of women's basketball. But I got to say, Coach Kaufman built a playbook, and I'm using that. Like everything that I've heard him say, I'm waiting for other coaches that's recruiting my daughter to say those same things. Like, in our family and in our business, we have a saying that says relationships win. Mm-hmm. In the game of life, relationships win. And if you're not winning, it's probably because there's a relationship that either needs mended or it needs built. There's an investment in a relationship that needs made. But Coach Kaufman and I say the exact same thing. We're not from here, but we're not leaving. Like this is home, and he works that way. He acts that way, and I'm excited to continue to support him. And how do you not get excited about supporting somebody who loves the community that much? I mean, when you're working with another business in town, such as you guys, I mean, all we're doing is helping other people win, and that's something that we say all the time. Is we're just here to help other people win. I'm here to help my realtors on my team win. I want them to have their best year ever every single year. I want my staff. I want them making more money. I want them, living the most fulfilled life that they can possibly live every single year. Does it happen? No, but my heart is when I wake up every day, I'm excited to help other people win.
Yeah, for sure. And as someone who's not originally from Northeast Indiana, who moved here about 30 years ago and has stayed here, I get that. And one of the things I love about where we live is the ability to connect the dots. When I growing up in the greater Boston area, it was hard to make connections with people because there were so many layers of separation. In Fort Wayne, we don't have that problem, right? Mm-hmm. It's hard if you've been in this community for a couple of decades to go out to the grocery store and not bump into 5 people you know. And there are days when that seems like a negative, but there's a lot of days when that ability to connect the dots and really see the impact of, the things that we do, I think that's great. And I think that's one of the things that makes Fort Wayne unique. Enough opportunity where it's worth connecting the dots, but without the labor intensity of doing that.
I'll say it a different way because I 100% agree with you. My brother-in-law is a realtor out in LA, like in Pasadena, and I've got realtor connections all over the country. And most of them will tell me like, why don't you come out to our area, Miami, our average sales price is 1.2 million, Pasadena, California, average sales price, $900,000. Why don't you come out to our area? Yeah. And I just said, because I would never trade the relationships and, the quality of life that we get right here in our own backyard. Yeah. And so I love that. I love that we're on the same team, when it comes to Fort Wayne and Northeast Indiana. For
sure. Okay. So another thing you took on, and this is going to get a little meta, was a podcast, right? And I know all the benefits and challenges that come with that. Tell me why you decided to add that to your to-do list. Why was that important to you? And what are you trying to accomplish with the Student of the Game podcast?
Well, I'll say this because you may not know this. We just started a second podcast, so we have 2 podcasts going right now. Not to do the shameless plug, but Student of the Game was a passion project of mine that I love investing in other people. Also because of what I get out of it. I had Kaufman on the podcast, and one of the things Kaufman said, I'm like, hey, I know you're busy, but thanks for coming on. He's like, no, I love doing these interviews because it's forced reflection.
Yeah.
I said, oh, tell me more. Yeah. And he just said, well, anytime I'm preparing, it allows me to go through my own thoughts, challenge my own thoughts, and then present something. Yeah. And, it was when he said that I'm like, that's exactly why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because I'm really doing it for a couple of reasons. One, I know a lot of really cool people. And if something ever happens to me, I want my kids to have this time vault of like all the cool people that I know that are doing amazing things. Yeah. So that was the first reason. And then the second reason is I just wanted to continue to improve on my communication skills. I wanted to continue to be able to deliver a message. Yeah. And I knew by podcasting, it would really challenge me. Mm-hmm. And then the third thing, and honestly, what was left over was, hey, if we can promote our real estate business, awesome, that'd be great. Yeah. And what I learned from that, Anthony, is I got to this place of really falling in love with small business owners and realizing that most small business owners don't have a coach. Most small business owners don't have a mentor. Mm-hmm. And we're all, fighting, biting, scratching, and clawing our way every single day. And, you get rejections and you make a mistake and then you have your biggest sale ever and you do that. And it's just like this, this flurry of emotions that you have. And it's like, I've been poured into by so many people. One, I want to make sure that I own that material. So I need to then rehearse it and prepare to deliver it to other people. So Student of the Game was really birthed from the idea that I didn't go to business school. I got a general, degree in marketing. Yeah. Didn't do much with it after that. Got into sales, but I learned so much about business through the game of basketball. And if I can apply those business tactics that I learned, whether it's teamwork or hard work or showing up late, showing up early, staying late, those things. And if I could ask people questions that would then help somebody else along their journey, I just felt like that was me paying it forward, paying it back, call it whatever you want. And so we named it Student of the Game because we believe in our real estate business. We've borrowed from every industry that's out there. I remember going to a doctor's appointment and sitting there and they had to fill out a form before I see the doctor. I'm like, well, that's a great idea. What if we have clients fill out forms when they want to work with us? So now by the time we go to the appointment, we actually have a bunch of information and now we can serve them better. Mm-hmm. We swipe that from the doctor's office. I look at the lawyers that are out there, right? They specialize too. And so I'm like, well, that's really kind of where it's like the specialist model came up. So all of these lessons that I've learned, I want to share them with people, but I also know some really cool people. And that's where Student of the Game came from. The reason we just started Moving Fort Wayne, which is our second podcast we do, it's because I want my team out in the community talking about what we specialize in. I want them to be experts in their field. And we do so much work behind the scenes that no one sees. I want them to have that same experience. I want them to have a voice. I want them to have some forced reflection and prepare a little bit about the real estate market specifically. We want people to be confident home buyers and confident home sellers when we're working with them. And so we just felt like it was a little muddy from a branding standpoint of talking real estate on Student of the Game, because I've had some of my team members as guests. So we just decided, hey, we have all the equipment. Let's just hit record twice a week instead of once.
All right. Well, that gives me another podcast I have to subscribe to then, because I just subscribed to Student of the Game. Well, and it goes back to what you were saying too. I was wondering how you were going to do all these things, but you're sharing the wealth with your team and letting them, take the spotlight, which I think is great.
And let me be 100% clear. Nobody can do this without a great team.
Yeah.
And so we have amazing humans with us. I have a podcast coach who produces it. And so he helps me along the way, and so it's just, you can't do this alone. And so the more people that I surround myself with that have talents and gifts, I just want to show those off. It's no different than the Hamilton. Hamilton, you guys, I made a list of everything that had to happen in order for us to take that property to market. And we needed to create Noll Reserve. And so in order to do that, there was logo design, branding, buyer personas. Like we had to really get into the mind of who we think that targeted buyer is going to be. I remember Ashley Miller and Kara Kelly, we did the property walkthrough at the very beginning just to be able to all right, let's lock in on who we're targeting here. You guys created a landing page, you did a press release, and then obviously the podcast with Kara went over really well. Those don't get done by one person.
Yeah. Yeah.
A podcast doesn't get done by one person. Taking a crown jewel to market, taking any home to market doesn't get done by one person. So I guess, the answer just keeps coming back to teamwork makes the dream work, It really does.
Yeah, it does. And, I always say when it comes to our podcast, I'm the least important person involved, because we've got Nick, who's the producer, who does all the technical back-end stuff that makes it happen. I've got coworkers who are covering for me when I'm doing these interviews, right? I've got the guests who have great stories to tell. I'm just the vehicle, but without any of those people, none of this would happen. So I hear you on that. All right, Brett, I'm going to pivot to a few quick hit questions. They do not require quick hit answers, but they allow for that if that's where you want to go. So the first one has to do with career advice. I feel like you've already given us some great career advice, but if you were talking to one of your kids or someone who's maybe just getting started in their career and you wanted to share your best career advice, what you think it takes to have a successful, fulfilling career, what would you say?
So many things come to mind. I think I'll keep it simple. Back to what my grandfather told me, go to work to learn, not to earn. And I think if you can find something you're passionate about learning and you're curious about it, I think that's in and of itself going to set you up. I also believe that, your career, should be the biggest investment you put into yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that we all talk about a lot is there's a difference between a career and a job, and if you're in a job right now and you don't love it, leave.
For sure.
I just think the investment you pay in yourself will create the best dividend that there possibly is.
Well, and while I have a lot of admiration for entrepreneurs, you can be very innovative and entrepreneurial even if you don't own a business. Your career should be the thing you create, develop, and continue to innovate around. And if you have the right employer, thank you, in my case, Asher Agency, they're going to let you be pretty creative. But a lot of people kind of are waiting for that permission. And I think you got to go get it. You can't wait for someone to give you that permission.
100%. And I'm going to give a shout out real quick to my office manager. My office manager has been with me a little over 5 years, and he's more than doubled his income. And I just, again, I'm an entrepreneur. I think like an entrepreneur, and I want my team to think that way too. And I had two things for him. I said, number one, always deliver more value than what you take in payment, right? That's one of the laws of the go-giver.
Yeah.
And the second thing we always talk about is I want to pay you as much as possible. I want you to experience as much as possible. I believe every valuable member of the team should bring in 3 times the value in which they get paid. So if you want to make 50,000, bring in 150. If you want to get paid 100,000, bring in $300,000. So it scales. You want to make $1 million, if you bring in $3 million, I'll pay $1 million every single year. So I think what happens is we have to understand, yes, just because you have a job doesn't mean you're stuck. It means where can you add value, and are you in a system that rewards that? And I think that's where healthy teams come from.
Yep. All right. That's great advice. Second quick hit question. What is a myth or misconception, Brad, about the work that you do? This could be real estate in general. It could be luxury real estate. It could even be about podcasting. Something that people believe that you want to debunk, or something that maybe doesn't get enough attention that you want to amplify.
I think the biggest challenge that we're faced with when it comes to myths, specifically myths, is that we spend a lot of time in homes. I would say that, the home is the byproduct of the lifestyle that people are living right now. We help people that are going through lifestyle changes that need to make a change in their housing. So, I talk to a lot of people all the time, and they're like, oh, you're in homes all day long. Well, no, I'm not in that. That'd be a little weird, actually. We are walking through life with people.
Yep.
And when they're going through a divorce, or when they're getting married, or when they're having babies, or when they're empty nesting, or when they're getting fired, whatever lifestyle they're going through, we're walking side by side with them. So we're not counselors. I tell people I'm not your pastor, I'm not your coach, but I'm a good listener, and I'm going to listen to what it is you're going through, and then we're going to get to, can we make sure that the house matches your lifestyle? So the myth that I would debunk here is we don't spend a lot of time in homes.
Yeah. So you're in the relationship business. The byproduct just happens to be houses.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Great way to say that.
All right. Last quick hit question. What is a tool that you use, something that helps you be more productive, be more effective, that is important to you, important enough that you want to acknowledge it?
Easy answer, gratitude.
Okay. Tell me more.
Practicing gratitude is something that I believe puts me in the frame of mind of why I'm doing this. I was just talking to some friends yesterday, and we were talking about this. And, I said, I had a friend one time was going through a tough time, and it's like, I don't know what to do. I said, how about we do this? I'll send you 3 things I'm grateful for every morning. You send me 3 things that you're grateful for every morning. We'll just do that until, we break the chain. Like somebody goes on vacation or somebody gets sick or whatever. And we ended up doing that for almost 90 days. Wow. And he ended up telling me, he's like, Brad, that was revolutionary in my mindset. Like you couldn't repeat the same thing over and over again. Right. So the simple answer is, I think the biggest hack that's out there right now for productivity is gratitude. And because what it does is it puts you in a place not to worry. It puts you in a place of not to judge others. It puts you in a place of, there's so many things I could be grateful for. But that's the short answer. I've got a bunch of other things. I think routines help. I think journaling helps. I'm a big cold plunge and sauna person right now. So I think those are some hacks that help. But I would say, if above all else, the number one hack in productivity for me personally is just remaining grateful. And it's hard.
So Brad, is that a daily practice where you try to journal on a few things you're grateful for, or is it more complex than that?
No, I've been journaling for a really long time. And so I would say journaling is probably the action. Gratitude is more of the posture. So my journaling is about things I'm grateful for, maybe even things I'm going through, that I just don't have the answer for, but I need to get them kind of, you talk pen to paper, right? Good old fashioned pen to paper. So I think gratitude is the hack, but the practice of gratitude for me, other than shooting off a text to somebody about how much I appreciate them every once in a while, or giving them their flowers on a podcast, I think the action item for gratitude is then, journaling and getting that out. It starts my day off right.
For sure. For sure. There's a lot to worry about in the world, but if you focus on what you have, you'll feel a lot better. There's a phrase that has kind of guided me for the last 10 or 15 years that says, the best way to feel like you have, the best way to feel like you have everything is to understand you already do, right? And try to focus on that instead of all the problems, and we'll all be in a much better place.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, speaking of gratitude, thank you. I know you're busy. Really appreciate the opportunity to hear a little bit about your story and to have this conversation. Really also appreciate the partnership with your team working with Asher. We love what you're doing, and we are really grateful to be part of it.
Well, I can't thank you guys enough. When we talk about exceeding expectations, to every single person we come in contact with, we knew that over 30% of our business was in the luxury space, and it was just time to take on this new project. And we knew the Hamilton was coming up, but we do, like I said, have other luxury properties we're working through. And so it really gave us some insight on how we can exceed other people's expectations. And then on top of that, your team, like you said, a bunch of specialists came out, whether it was our single page website or whether it was the PR in an announcement that we had. And you guys just were first class. So I'm grateful for you guys. Anthony, thanks for having me on here. And I guess we can both enjoy today. It's the first day of college basketball, and the Dons are playing out at Grand Canyon tonight. Hopefully we get that W.
All right. Well, go Dons. And thanks to everyone who took the opportunity to listen to this episode of the Asher Marketing Podcast. We'll be back next time with another great guest, and we hope you'll join us then.
And now we'd love to hear from you. Is there a question you wish we had covered? Please let us know. You can reach out to us at hello@asheragency.com. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to our show wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps others discover us as well. For more resources and updates, visit our website at asheragency.com. Thanks for listening.